Yes, people, what's going on? It's Egal Talks Football. We're back again with another video. Errol is going to be joining me very soon to have this conversation between Liverpool and Arsenal. A little bit of Twitter beef has been going on between me and him lately. We got to get that sorted. But before we go any further, please do hit that like button. Please do hit that subscribe button. Let's get started with some transfer news, and we'll work our way from there. First bit of transfer news is that West Ham want Fabio Vieira. Apparently West Ham have added Fabio Vieira to their list of midfield options. No approach yet to Arsenal. Vieira is on the now a name of interest. West Ham are planning to add multiple midfielders this summer. It would be nice if we can get some transfer fees paid for some of our players. We have been notoriously poor at selling players. Fabio Vieira could be the first of many to be sold this window. So let's see if Arsenal can make some sales and shift out some of those players in and around the squad so we can maybe get some movement on the Eze deal or some movement on other potential signings. Maybe we bring in a left winger, maybe we bring in more squad depth. We don't know. But at this moment in time, there is a lot of movement on the cards. And some of that movement is also none other than the man himself, Reiss Nelson. Reported that Dave Ronstein reported on the 27th, just yesterday, that Reiss Nelson is Arsenal and Fulham are in discussions over a potential move for Reiss Nelson. We're gonna have to wait and see what the cards hold for that one right there. In other news, there is some stuff around. There is some stuff around Rodrigo, and the Rodrigo stuff is mostly about Liverpool. We're going to speak about that once Errol gets here, as the Liverpool stuff is mostly about Rodrigo. But there is also some funny stuff about Rodrigo potentially headed to Tottenham, and Tottenham basically saying that that's not going to happen. But before we go any further, Hato is going to be headed to Chelsea. Yes, Gerald Hato is going to be headed to Chelsea. Chelsea once again getting another quality young player. That's their timber right there. Somebody who's versatile, who can play at center back, can play at left back, and he can do so much. He is a top talent, and Chelsea are getting themselves another quality player right there. Granit Xhaka is headed back to the Premier League. He's going to be going to Sunderland. This is very interesting conversation right there. I did not expect him to head to Sunderland, but that is interesting right there. We also have news about Alexander Isak has rejected an offer from Al Hilal of 600k a week. We also have Rodrigo has no interest of joining Tottenham. Welcome, Errol. Errol's in the building. We're going to be talking about some of these stuff. Of course, Liverpool are ready to make a move for Alexander Isak, one of the most expensive players in history of English game. The player sees the move as his dream move. You must be gassed. We're going to be talking about that in a second. There is a little bit more Arsenal news that I've seen somewhere down here where I need to talk about before we move on. And that was around Jesus. I just want to say, if Jesus is for sale, we should not be selling him to a Premier League team, especially not Newcastle or Tottenham, because the reports are that the two teams that we're linked to potentially Jesus going to are Newcastle, Tottenham, Inter, or AC Milan. Arsenal should be looking to sell him to AC Milan or Inter ahead of Newcastle and Tottenham. We should not be pushing ahead at anything else besides that. Newcastle and Tottenham, it should be a thing where it's like, if you want him, the price is higher. If AC Milan or Inter want him, the price is a little bit lower. But there should be some clause where if they sell him to another Premier League team, that we get a cut or something, like a sell-on clause or something, just to discourage them from buying him and then selling him off to another Premier League team immediately. I've seen that before. So sell-on clauses where I think we've seen that with Kvaratskhelia and Napoli. Napoli put in a clause where they said Kvaratskhelia, if he's brought back to the Serie A, that PSG would have to pay a little bit more than normal. And finally, before we go any further and we get on to the main crux of today's video, I don't know if you've seen Errol, but your boy Kanate most likely could be staying, and my boy Saliba most likely could be staying, as he had an interview with Arsenal Fan TV where he basically outed the fact that he's looking to sign a new contract. They asked him straight up, when Saliba, when are you going to sign the contract? He said, hopefully soon. God is great. And then he's like, and he also said, this year we're trying to win everything. So And I've heard reports that both Konate and Saliba are not looking to move to Real Madrid, as they believe the Premier League is the best place to be.
I'd
So,
agree. I'd agree with both of them on that.
I don't know about you. Have you heard any news on Konate signing a new deal?
Not necessarily signing a new deal,
At
but
least staying until the World Cup's over.
yeah, I'm pretty confident that we will be keeping hold of him at least for the next season. Obviously, it doesn't leave us in the greatest position. Obviously, after the season we've just had with the likes of Trent, Virg, and Salah, contract disputes. However, Liverpool are, I wouldn't say threadbare at the back, but if we was to lose Konate, that would kind of throw a big spanner in the works in terms of our defensive, how we can look to line up next season. So I don't think it would be on a priority list for Liverpool to try and cash in on him at this moment in time. So although a new deal isn't on the horizon, I can't see us trying to push him out of the door at this point in time.
Hey, we started the video with Arsenal transfer news as you're joining. Let's get on to Liverpool transfer news. You know what? I don't think you guys are going to get Rodrigo, you know.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine as well.
No, but it's not a thing where it's like out of like snarkiness or anything. Unless Rodrigo lowers his wage demands.
300k a week he wants.
Yeah, unless he lowers his wage demands, I kind of feel like he's pricing himself out of a move.
Potentially, yeah, and I can see the sense in that, because at the end of the day, he's not going to be our main guy. He's not going to be the talisman. Look, you know, there was the speculation that Tottenham might have been interested for him. Now, if Tottenham, for example, as the size of the club that they were, trying to get someone like Rodrigo in, I could understand them paying 250 plus a week to have him as their kind of linchpin in the side that they're creating at the moment, build a team around him. We know Heung-min Son is probably on a decline. He probably won't be able to perform at the top level much longer than what he has been doing for the last couple of years. So to have somebody like that would make sense. But Liverpool have got an embarrassment of riches in attacking options at the moment. Obviously, we just signed Gyokeres. We've still got Mohamed Salah, who's going to be on a mega contract. Again, he's just signed a new contract with us. Florian Wirtz is another one who's just come in, and he does command quite a big wage fee as well. So in terms of us looking to get another one, obviously the Isak rumours are still rumbling on. But in terms of getting someone like Rodrigo on that wage, I don't think Liverpool or FSG would look at that as a sound business. There's a lad called Fofana. I keep missing his first name.
Yeah, from Lyon.
Is it Malik or something? I'm not 100% sure if I'm getting that right.
Fofana.
Yeah. I haven't. Again, he's a player I've not seen much of, but I can imagine if it's kind of
he's an exciting young tricky winger.
Exactly, and if it's a bit of a stopgap, because obviously we're looking to bolster the striking options this season, we've still got Cody Gakpo. It might be that somebody of that ilk might be a better fit.
Let me ask you this: Chiesa is leaving, right?
Potentially. Well, again, it's up in the air. I wouldn't mind him going, but I can understand if he doesn't go at the same time.
Okay, let's go through this then. So Darwin Núñez and Diaz are pretty much done.
Yeah, right? Diaz is done. Darwin's probably going to be the next one out the door, I can imagine.
All right. As for attackers, you have Higo Ekitike, Cody Gakpo, Ben Doak. Surely Ben Doak is not a serious contender to be starting after Salah.
No, not a chance.
Okay.
Not in my opinion, anyway.
So at this moment in time, before you've signed Isak, you have Salah, Chiesa, Ben Doak, Cody Gakpo, Higo Ekitike, and Darwin Núñez. That's 6 players. Darwin Núñez is going to be leaving. That's going to leave you with 5 players. Chiesa is going to be leaving. That's going to leave you with 4 players.
Obviously, the likes of a Rio might get promoted into that first team squad.
Okay, yeah. So Rio comes into the mix. So that's
but Rio could come into the mix, and then I imagine the likes of an Isak type signing could potentially be another one.
Can I be honest though? Is Rio and Ben Doak serious contention to be the backups for the likes of Mo Salah or the likes of somebody else who's going to?
Well, on that left-hand side, obviously it's a little bit more open for negotiation based on the fact that obviously Diaz going was the predominant one. Gakpo now has an opportunity to step up and basically make the left wing his. But he will still need a deputy. He will still need someone to come in when he needs a little bit of a break. Could Rio make that jump? Not to say that I'm not convinced, but it would be a big ask of a 16-year-old to be looking to play 20 plus games across the course of the season at this stage in his career. if I'm
All
being
right.
honest.
I posted this yesterday and it kind of got a lot of people pissed off, but I genuinely I'm trying to, you can break it down for me better than anybody else, right? It's Liverpool's like 11 hypothetically with Isaac, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the situation I put here is I don't know who your backup fourth choice center back is. Mark Guehi, of course, is being linked to your club. So once he signs, he can slot right in there.
Mm-hmm.
As for the backups to Saka, I mean, the backups to Salah and Gakpo, who would they be? And is Florian Wirtz going to be playing on the wing? Is he going to be playing in the 10? What's the plan?
I think Vert will end up playing in the 10. I'm not 100% sure if we'll stick with this formation or if there'll be tweaks to this system. In terms of the likes of Van Dijk's understudy at the moment, and again, I say this because it could happen, but I think Liverpool would probably want to do a better job of planning somebody as a bit of a deputy. Endo would slot back in as a centre back, as a break glass solution. The likes of Salah's understudy again. It's hard. I think the likes of
is getting sold, right?
Say that again. It's open to interpretation. If the right money comes in for him, then potentially it could be a deal that we do look to do. But we would have to get the right level of money for him. We're going to command a fee of upwards of 40 million for him. In terms of Salah's replacements, I can imagine Frimpong would also deputise as a right winger as well and play further forward. He'd get some opportunities and minutes there. He did play the second half of the AC Milan game in that forward line for us on Saturday. So maybe that's part of Slot's thinking going forward, that he can fill in the gaps when Salah needs a bit of a rest or needs 10-15 minutes worth of a rest at the end of games. Gakpo, again, I think Ekatike might be the one that plays out on the left a little bit with Gakpo. And of course, then hopefully the likes of Isaac would be that directly through the middle, yeah. And then obviously Ekatike kind of splits his time between the middle or out wide left. Can't see Gakpo playing many minutes through the middle this season.
One thing you didn't mention, I spoke to a lot of Liverpool fans and they were telling me Frimpong's going to be the backup for Salah.
I've just said that.
No, but I know you mentioned it right now. Sorry, I missed that. My apologies. But I was just posting something on Twitter. As for Frimpong, do you really think he can do that job?
It's yet to be seen. It's genuinely yet to be seen. As I say, I think he's got the pace. He's got a little bit of trickery about him. I'm not 100% sure about his end product, not necessarily in terms of the way that he can provide assists or make his way into the box and get to the byline, but in terms of the way that Mo Salah, there's a graph that Liverpool fans have put out for a number of years of the way that Mo Salah likes to operate in a little box inside the box in the 6-yard box, and that's where he takes a lot of his chances from. And I don't know if the likes of Frimpong would be able to come and replicate what Salah does in that particular area of the pitch for us. I think there's more chance that we would probably get him to revert to a little bit more of a typical winger if he was to come in and replace Salah for any period of time. But obviously we have to look at that position because Salah is going to go to the AFCON next season. So there has to be some consideration of who can come in and hold down that right wing position for upwards of 3, 4, 5 weeks. Could be the likes of, again, depending on how far Egypt go, you could end up missing Mo Salah for upwards of 6 to 7 games across all competitions.
So yeah, there could be all sorts of different experiments. We're gonna have to wait and see. I guess you're right. The next thing I was gonna say is, at this moment in time, you admit that your squad is imbalanced, and you're gonna need a large portion of additions, as you just stated. How many more do you ideally think will actually happen, and how many are you? Is there any concern?
Well, obviously, if it all depends on the outgoings for me personally. If we was to just stick on 3 outgoings for the time being, and we was to say, the likes of Chiesa, Darwin, and Diaz all leave, I would expect us to bring in at least 3 more players. Now, those 3 players don't necessarily have to be all forwards, because you could obviously promote the likes of a Rio into the squad to try and give him some minutes and phase him into first team football. But I would expect that we would go in the market for a centre back, because Joe Gomez is currently injured. He's got a bit of an Achilles issue. I would expect us to get another wide forward, and I would obviously expect us to get Isaac over the line if that was the case. So I'd be saying we're probably about 3 players away from having the complete complement in terms of a squad.
Even if you did get those 3 players, I feel like you need 2 defenders. Because Gomez is not.
Some people are saying that, bro. Some people are saying that already, bro. Yeah.
I don't think Gomez is the most reliable, and Isak joining is one thing, but really, you guys, the Fofana guy is one signing, but it would be ideal if you can get Fofana and Rodrigo, because think about it. I'm sorry to mention it, but
Sorry, Fofana, Rodrigo, and Isak.
I think you would need that. I think you need more attackers because you're going to lose Diaz. Unfortunately, the unfortunate passing of Diego Jota, you know what I mean? You rest his soul, and then you have a bunch of other players who are going to be leaving this window: Harvey Elliott, Chiesa, Darwin Núñez. So you're looking at 5 attackers being shifted out of your team from last year. You do need more than just Ekitike and Isak and Fofana.
Again, I'm not 100% sure, and that's why I said to you before, it all depends on the amount and the volume of the outgoings that we end up doing between now and the end of the transfer window. If we look at it as, Harvey Elliott, Chiesa, Núñez, Diaz, who else could potentially go? We could either, do a deal for a Ben Doak. There could be a Tyler Morton. There could be 6 or 7 fringe-esque type players that go, but we would probably only want no more than 4 senior players to then be able to come in and fill in these roles. Obviously, Tsimikas could go as well because we're kind of stocked in that left-back department as well, and he's probably the third in that pecking order. So I'm not necessarily worried about the dealings. I think from what Liverpool's perspective is, if we identify someone that we want, there's a very high probability that Liverpool this summer can go out there and get them. So the likes of a Mark Gay, if we put the money down, he's only got a year left on his contract. We could definitely tell.
Would Mark Gay want to come on a World Cup year?
Why not?
Why would he go somewhere? Why would he go somewhere where he might not get enough minutes to actually keep his spot for England?
But that's again, that comes down to the long-term vision of what he actually wants for himself. So if he thinks that in the long term he is going to then become the starting centre half next to a Van Dijk, potentially, if Konate was to eventually go to a Real Madrid, it would make sense that he would try and get bedded in this season. And look, at the end of the day, if you're in that Liverpool squad, you're in that Liverpool squad because you are of a certain calibre. I've seen lesser players get into an England call-up that have had half the minutes, have half the time as a first-team senior pro, and they still get the call-up. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility.
Gomez was in the last England squad, right?
And it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Thomas Tuchel has identified the players he wants, and as long as they are fit and playing to a high level when they play their games, he would use them. And again, it could be an extra advantage to England that come the end of next season, what players aren't burnt out, what players haven't had 70 plus games in the tank as extra mileage and then heading into a major summer tournament. So these things are all worth consideration for me.
All right. Let's get off this for now and shift over to Arsenal, because do you know why I'm so confident? Because when I looked at your team, I kind of see you still have a lot of work to do. Your window's not close to being over, as you've acknowledged, and that could potentially give you a little bit. That could maybe give you a little time where you need to catch up once the season starts to get everyone acclimatized, get everyone going, get everyone up to speed, and we play each other on the 3rd game of the season. Now, Arsenal could have a great start to the season as we pretty much already have most of our business done, and I've included the last player who I'm expecting us to sign, which is Eze, in the graphic.
Why do you want him on the left wing? Every Palace fan that I've spoke to has said he's redundant on the left wing. So why would you pigeonhole him out there?
Because when he plays for Palace, his actual area of the pitch where he operates the most is he drifts from the inside. He's an inside forward on the left side for them. Even though he might play as a 10, majority of his games, he's operating in the left flank. And I can show you the heat maps for the last 3 seasons at Palace. Even though they say, oh, he's not good on the left, well, that's where he operates. That's where he scores majority of his goals from. That's where he creates majority of his chances from. That's where he gets majority of his crosses. Most of the time when he's shooting with his right foot from the left flank. And I'm sorry, if they're saying he doesn't operate as a left winger, that's in their system.
And I think that's because he, as you're alluding to there, he's gonna cut in to the center of the pitch at
Yeah,
some
he's
point.
going to be
He's not.
inside forward.
He's going to be inside. He's not going to likely be the one that's going to go
Let,
round the outside.
yeah, let me
But
show you
then,
this. So
yeah,
this is the actual Crystal Palace for the last couple of years. So first you have this year, this past year, you can see he's heavily on the left side. You go to the year prior to that. Once again, heavily on the left side, inside forward, cutting
this is the problem, though.
onto
This is the problem area. So where you just highlighted there, if you look to obviously taking corners there, but that third where he doesn't typically go on the outside, that's what you have on the other side of the pitch if you look at Saka. So if you was to compare Saka's heat map there, I would imagine Saka, where you've got your mouse there, just towards the bottom, I imagine, yeah, let's have a look and let's have the conversation. But I imagine you'd see a lot more red going on the outside for someone like Saka.
Saka's more of a touchline winger.
And that's I think that's what Arsenal fans, in their mind, they've got this preconception that Eze wouldn't be able to come in and replicate that. So you're going to have...
he wouldn't need to.
I'm not saying that he does, but I'm just saying that's what I can see from Arsenal fans' perspective at the moment. They're almost expecting that they're going to have somebody who's going to be a touchline winger on the other side to complement what Saka does, to give you that bit of balance. But based on the graph that you've just shown me, Saka dominates with a lot of heat, with a lot of red spots down that flank, whereas that particular point of the area is probably not where Eze does the best bit of his work. Would it be right in saying that?
We already have a very balanced and healthy squad across the pitch. Where we are struggling is the left side. And Madueke, as much as people did not want him to sign, we'll have to wait and see what he offers us on either flank. And Eze, as a left winger or a backup 10 or a starting 10, whichever way it is, he will bring more creativity to our left side. We are
Can I ask you a question? How many transformative players have you signed in this window?
So far, two. In the sense of Gyokeres and Zubimendi. Once Eze signs, I'd say three.
Do you really think Zubimendi can be framed as a transformative player in the midfield? Considering, again, if you take aside the off-field stuff with Thomas Partey, do you think his level is higher at this moment in time than Thomas Partey's last season?
He's a superior player when it comes to line breaking passes and helping create more mismatches in the final third. Thomas Partey was good. Don't get me wrong. He was a really solid player, 7 out of 10, consistent performer throughout the season on both sides of the pitch. But I do think Zubimendi is a better player in the final third. And defensively, he's deceptively good defensively, even though he doesn't look like the typical solid defensive midfielder. He's like Jorginho with better defensive work rate.
Okay, cool.
Right. So I'm not surprised you're saying this. Liverpool wanted him. You clearly know how good he is.
I know that's what I'm saying. I know that he's a good player, but what I'm saying is, compared to what you had and now what you've lost in terms of player quality, does he come in?
I would say we've gotten better, because Norgard to Jorginho had no legs last season. We've gotten better in the backup position. And Zubimendi, I don't know if you watched, Partey was good last season, but there was a lot of moments defensively where he had lapses in concentration, or he wasn't fully, like, I felt like he was trying to protect himself from getting injured at times, because previous seasons he's had a lot of injury issues.
Last season was probably his best. Last season was probably his best in terms of his injury record.
Yeah, last season was probably his best, but there was also times in game where I felt like he was pacing himself, where he wasn't like running his guts off. Like some guys you'll see right away, like Declan Rice, he's running his guts out the whole game. Where Partey, he's more like nonchalant. There's times where we're on the counter defending and he's like jogging back. He's not really busting his gut to get back. But hey, people say I have a Partey agenda. I seen his flaws in his game, and I felt like people are hyperbolic when they say he's our best midfielder last season, when Declan Rice was Premier League team of the season, PFA team of the season, Champions League team of the season. Tell me how Partey is better than that.
No, and I think that's I think the idea that you've got these transformative players, I think, you're banking on, you've got two in at this moment in time is
and we're going to sign a third.
And I appreciate that, but at the time of recording, same way I'm not going to say at the time of recording we've got Isak. Time of recording, you've got two. You've got Gyokeres and you've got Zubimendi. I do genuinely, we had a conversation the other day, and I do genuinely believe that there will be a period of adjustment for the likes of a Zubimendi in this league. I think that we've seen it before ourselves with not only Slot, but with with Klopp, certain players that get brought in to play particular roles that are going to be very important to how the team operate and move the ball through the phases to go forward, they don't bed in after 3 or 4 weeks. It could take you up to, in particular, top one off the top of my head would have been a Fabinho. Fabinho's a classic and prime example of what Klopp wanted his DM to do. It wasn't a case of, I can just drop you in match game 1 and you're going to be able to get it. You're going to understand where everybody's meant to be on the pitch at any given time, and you're going to be able to screen, defend, block, track back.
But you know what makes it easier? When you have your former midfield partner in Mikel Moreno, your former midfield partner in Odegaard,
and it might,
the team.
And that might, but again, there's probably a nuance there in the fact that the way that they play to Sociedad is probably not going to be the same way that they play in this Arsenal setup. Same way you just said Eze for Palace is not going to be expected to do the same job that you guys are hoping he will do for Arsenal. So on that basis, I still think they might be up to speed with what's required of them. And in all fairness, Moreno's not a guaranteed starter. So he's going to have to get used to, obviously, it being Rice in that position anyway. And the likes of an Odegaard now has probably kicked on his role within that Arsenal team. And the expectations on him are probably slightly different from what he had at Sociedad. So again, from my perspective, I'm not saying it's going to take you up to 4 or 5 months to get the best out of Zubimendi, but I wouldn't say that match day 1 or by match game 3 when we book into he is going to be man of the match and being able to put in those levels of performances. I could be completely wrong, but based on what I've seen down the years, when you're expecting specialist players to come in, even the likes of Rodri in his first season under Pep's an absolutely phenomenal manager. I think most people in the chat, yourself, me, would say he's probably one of the best managers that's ever managed in the Premier League. He took him the best part of a season in able to really hone the level out of Rodri that he wanted in terms of the consistency.
But doesn't this make my point for Liverpool? With you signing so many players, don't you have more concerns than I would? Because if I'm not mistaken, you have a new starting left winger, a left back. You have a new starting right back. You have a new starting 10 in Florian Wirtz if he plays in the 10. You're going to have a new left winger, if I'm not mistaken, and a new striker. So that is a total of 6 new signings, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, did I get that correct? You got 3 attacking players. No, you got 2 defenders, 1 midfielder, 2 attackers. So that's 5. You got 5 new players. In my case, we only have 3 new starters, and the rest are all squad players. And we have 2 players. We have 2 players in every position. Some positions 3. So I think we're more equipped to start the season today than you are.
Again, I could find ways to disagree with that, purely because Gyokeres was probably the left back of the season last year. I think he would have been on a lot of people's team of the season.
Hey, but it doesn't matter what you just said to me 2 seconds ago. It does take time for players to get used to the system.
So this is where I was going to land the point. Gyokeres has been in the Premier League and he already understands the intensity of the league. So all he's really having to do is climatize to his teammate, because his requirements in terms of how he's going to play his left back position is going to be exactly the same as what he was doing last season. He's just going to be asked to do more. Plus, when you couple that in with the fact that his teammate for Hungary is Dominic Szoboszlai, there's that chemistry there that can be relied on, to be built upon. Same way you could say the same argument for the likes of Florian Wirtz and Jeremy Frimpong. Both of them have come from the exact same team last year. They're good friends, and now they're playing in this Liverpool setup and system, which means that they're both learning on the job at the same time and both hopefully helping each other speed up that process. Not to say that it's going to bed and click on day 1. I'll accept that. But what we have as an advantage in that situation is we're only relying on one to bang for us. And for me, hopefully, I'm putting my eggs in the basket of Florian Wirtz, because we've got Conor Bradley. Conor Bradley already knows the system. So if Conor Bradley has to play, let's say hypothetically, the first half of the season, because Jeremy Frimpong isn't to the level we need as a right back and play that full back position, I'm confident that Conor Bradley knows exactly what's required of him and will come in and do the job, which then just means that we're expecting our number 10 to at some point start to light things up for Liverpool in a Liverpool shirt. And I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility, given how highly spoken and highly touted this player was. Man City wanted him, Bayern Munich wanted him, Real Madrid have wanted him. The fact that he's come to us, I am very confident that he will come and he will just kick on, and it'll be like a duck to water in that respect. Strikers are different. Strikers are going to
pause for a second.
Yeah.
I want to first tell the people in the comment section, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button also if you guys haven't already done so. As for this point right here, Florian Wirtz. What's to say Florian Wirtz is going to take to the Premier League like Dr. Water? As you just said, there is going to be time necessarily needed for majority of people who come over to the Premier League. And if we're saying that about Zubamendi, if we're saying that about Gyokeres, if we're saying that about any other player who comes into the Premier League, be it for Man City or Chelsea or anybody else, what's to say Florian Wirtz comes in and immediately plays well? And also, similar to Eze for Arsenal, where is he going to play? Is he going to play in the midfield? Is he going to play in the left wing? Is because I don't know if you get the best out of him playing on the left wing. I think early it would be the closer he is to the middle, the better, as he'll have more space to operate.
So I think there's a good chance that, like, as I said, the system or the formation changes for Liverpool this season. I think we did it against Man City last season, where we played Curtis Jones and Dominic Szoboszlai, and it was like 9.5s and 10s, and they both occupied the middle, and we just had two wide forwards in the likes of Diaz and Salah, and they both occupied that space, and then one dropped into the midfield as well, and they just shared that responsibility between themselves. That was kind of how Florian Wirtz started his debut against AC Milan for us. So it's not to say that will be the permanent fix, but that might be something that we lean into in order to try and get some results in some of the big games potentially, or a way to free him up and keep him more centrally as opposed to kind of shoehorning him out to the left. I'm not saying for 1 minute that just because you've signed foreign players from a different league and we have, that ours are going to hit the ground running and yours aren't. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there is a possibility that it could take a little bit of time for those specialist players to actually bed in to respective teams. I think I can make a stronger case for Liverpool being complete enough without having to rely on those players, but you're expecting one of your guys to be a linchpin from day one, and if that doesn't happen, the drop off in standard for Zubamendi being that linchpin.
But we have cover.
We don't necessarily.
If Zubamendi doesn't start well,
so the drop. All right. So for example, then Wirtz doesn't start well. Dominic Szoboszlai goes in. What's the level?
Declan Rice.
In what sense?
Declan Rice can play the 6. So can Norgard.
So, but that's what I'm saying. The drop between Declan Rice to play the 6 is fine. But if Declan Rice is going to be expected to play higher up and he's going to be more of an 8, and
we can also play Moreno in the 8. We can play Havertz in the 8.
But the level, this is what I'm saying. So the level between those is more significant than the level that I've just offered you. Wirtz to Szoboszlai, the level in terms of what we'd expect from that 10, I would still be okay with that.
We have 3 players that can play in the 8, that can play in the 6, and I don't think there's any drop off from Zubamendi to Rice. The question you can say is,
there was. Rice. I said Norgard. I said Norgard where the drop off is, and if you want Rice to play as the box to box or the out and out 8, then surely that means Norgard's going to be the one that covers in the 6. And if that is the case, then that is a considerable drop off, in my opinion, anyway.
Okay. As for the attack, Liverpool's whole attack is going to be changing, and maybe for the good, because Mo Salah was holding a lot of the weight last season, and that's probably not a good thing going forward. And you guys are going to be investing a lot into your attack. You're going to be investing into the likes of Isak. You've already invested in Ekitike. As you said, Florian Wirtz could be playing on the wing. It's going to be very different from last season. Could that be too much change once again and negatively impact performances for maybe Mo Salah, performances for the whole squad? Maybe take a little bit of time to get used to it, and at that point you could be a couple points behind. And maybe it's a good thing Arsenal's facing you 3rd game of the season, as you're not going to be at your best that early in the season.
I don't expect any team to be at the best after 3 games, though. Let's just be honest. I don't expect
any team Liverpool to be at Anfield. To face Liverpool at Anfield, 3rd game of the season, is a big advantage to us who potentially.
Why? You've not won there for nearly. When was the last time you won there? 2013-14?
No, I'm saying as a title rival.
But as a title rival, you haven't come to my yard and booked us for the best part of 10 years. So why?
I know that. We haven't been good enough. But majority of the time.
So why do you think just because it's the 3rd game of the season, it gives you?
I'm not talking about head-to-head matchups. You guys have been better than us head-to-head matchups at your ground. Although you haven't beaten us in the last couple of seasons, I will say, as for the actual logic behind Liverpool away being one of our toughest games of the season, maybe the toughest game of the season, For Arsenal to play that on the third game of the season, with Liverpool still catching up, trying to make signings and get their team together, it could massively benefit us.
I think we'll have had our business done by then. No, I think our starting 11 will be ready to go by the third game of the season. I think if we was to make late signings, it's going to be in the mold of a Chiesa type signing at the end of the season. Then how much minutes are that type of player going to really get
No, but I
realistically
think you're
anyway?
misunderstanding me.
Okay.
If I face Liverpool, the second game we play is in January. Imagine if it was reverse and we played you in January at your ground. Obviously, that would be much tougher than playing you third game of the season. That's all I was saying.
It probably will, because
We
obviously
could maybe catch you out. You never know.
you could. Anything could happen early days in the season. Anything could happen. But am I going to turn around and say I don't back us to win the third game, second game, our second home game of the season at Anfield, packed crowd, when we just got new marquee signings? No, I'm expecting them to want to turn up in that game and show that, yeah, even though we're not the finished article, we can still turn up for the big games as and when they come.
All right. Before we get to the video that actually triggered this whole conversation, let's get to one more piece of conversation that we need to get to. It's not about the preseason necessarily, but the title favorites. Every year they do Opta Sports or some website does favorites, and they have Liverpool as slight favorites over Arsenal and Man City, and it's very small. It's not like a big margin. 4% difference between second and third, another 5%, another 4 or 5% difference between them, and then 13% difference between Chelsea and Man City. So you can see right there, 6% difference between them. So you can see right there, it just goes, and then somehow Manchester United is expected to come in fifth and get Champions League football next season. That is crazy to me. But before we get to Chelsea, Man City, and any of those guys, obviously Liverpool are favorites. I'm not saying Liverpool are not favorites, but do you echo the thoughts that everyone's saying? If you sign Isak and you have all these guys you've already signed, and you potentially go and get a defensive cover, you think everything's over, pretty much wrap it up, give Liverpool the league? Or you're a little bit more like,
to be hyperbolic, I could say yeah, and just say, and just hype up the thing, because it just looks OP from my perspective. However, I know football's not played on paper, it's not simulated, it's not a video game, so anything could happen. Let's be honest. Again, Liverpool could make the signings that we're expecting to make, land our targets, and two of our most key players could end up having season-long injuries, which then changes the complexion of how you could kind of look to project your season. The one thing that I'll be consistent with, and I go back to the conversation that we had the other day, and again, I think it's the more I deep did it, it's the more that I've had. It's the PTSD that City have given me as a Liverpool fan over the last 5-6 years that make me think the way that I think now.
You're more scared of them? Is that what you're saying?
No. What I am, there's no fear, but for me, I look at teams that are building themselves to be 90 plus points for the campaign. They look at it across the board of the season and say, how can we get as many points as possible to consider ourselves in a title challenge? And for me, I look at that Liverpool team, as you just said then, if we get that final piece of Isak and a defensive player, I think our floor then has to be 90 points. If that means Arsenal are there plus 90 and City are there plus 90, then that's fine, and I'll accept the title race and let the best team win. But I don't think any serious team can say, unless we've assembled a team that can go and chase down 90 points, we can't really consider ourselves serious contenders for a Premier League title. And that's just how purely based on. And again, if City takes City away from what
Tom's funny. Injury-free world will smash the league. You know what? Everyone can say that. I kind of feel like everyone will say they're confident in their team if they're injury-free.
Yeah, and I completely get that. But the point that I'm making is, had City not done what they've done for a number of years and proved consistently that it can be done, I wouldn't even have a metric of 90 points. But because I've seen it play out in real time, lost titles to them on 97 points or 98 points and come up short, I know if you want to be taken seriously for a title challenge, That is the bar and the baseline that your team should be setting themselves up for. They should be looking at, what can we do? Forget what happens with other teams and forget what happens in the, what can we do week by week, and how can we accumulate as many points as possible to put us in that conversation? And for me, when you look at the business that we're doing on paper, if it comes off, I would say that we are assembling a team whose floor would be 90 plus points.
I would say the points part, I agree with you. You do need 90 or in the region of 90 to win the league minimum. But I'm not focused on the points tally at this moment in time. I'm just saying to myself, I'm looking at 10 game blocks. Say we got the next 10 games. I need to see.
And this is why I love talking to Arsenal fans, you know, because that was my mentality. I used to have that mentality as a Liverpool fan from about 17, 18 to about 2021. Everything was about 10 game blocks. And I'll tell you why that was the case. Because I used to say to, and I used to go on Potter's channel and say to him,
but you can't look at you from game week 1, you can't look at what you're potentially going to accumulate throughout the whole season.
No, but as a squad, you build a squad that can. Is that possible for that squad to achieve 90 points? Yes,
we've done it before. We've done it. I think we can do it again.
Exactly. But what I said to you, what I'm saying to you now is, yeah. What I'm saying to you now though is, I used to sit there and tell Potts, I look at two teams. I looked at Liverpool and City, and those were the teams that I could guarantee would do 10 games. And that 10 game block that you're on about, they could go 10 games unbeaten. And that's take them as serious. Arsenal were too inconsistent for a time. Chelsea had fell off. Manchester United weren't the same team. That's what I used to say. I just give me those 10 game blocks at a time, and I will then consider where we could end up. But it was only us and City. Then you entered the conversation in 2022, 2023. And I was like, now that they've done it and they've proven that they can do that 10 games, can they do it towards the back end of the season when it matters most? And can they step up when the pressure's applied? In moments you have, in some moments you fell short a little bit, but that was my mentality. So I'm not saying you're wrong in thinking that by any means, but what I'm saying from the lived experience is up the expectation. Otherwise you will be left a little bit disappointed, because I've been disappointed when I just had that as the expectation.
I think the reason why we have been disappointed the last 2 seasons has been the lack of clinical edge in these close games. That's where we've left ourselves short. And hopefully Gyokeres joining is going to be the difference maker for us. Before we get on to any more conversations about Liverpool v Arsenal, strictly Arsenal, Gyokeres should be the game changer for us.
Oh, absolutely.
In the final
absolutely.
third. And he has the mentality also, from what I've seen so far, of an elite player. Elite players only focus on their own capabilities and what they can do to first make the team better before they start thinking about others. And he seems like the kind of guy who just cares about scoring goals. He's one of those people who'd rather score a hat trick than score a game winner. He'd rather score 3 goals in a game than score 1. He's one of those guys who always wants to leave the building with a goal. And he's and in every interview, in every kind of conversation, everything that I've heard so far, he's coming back to the Premier League to dominate, as he's already been in the Premier League, never really got a minute to play, didn't really get a chance at Brighton, and now he's coming back a much more developed player. And Arsenal, we said Arsenal need a striker. Rival said it. They said Arsenal needs squad depth. Rival said it.
Can I ask you a question?
And now we've addressed our bench plus our starting 11 to a certain degree. We're still one player off, I would say.
And that's
I'm confident.
Can I ask you a question? Yeah, money not being an object, and the player, whichever player you identify, says yes, would Gyokeres still have been your number 1 striking target this summer?
No, I'll be 100% honest with you. No, I did not think Isak was even plausible to move. Okay. And if Isak was available, he would be my number 1. But if the choice is between Isak for 150 million or Arsenal spending that money on Eze and Gyokeres, I would rather have Eze and Gyokeres. That's just me saying.
No, that's fine.
We're in a situation where we need to fill more holes with quality players rather than spend the most on one individual position.
Okay, no, that's it. That's fine.
Anyways,
that wasn't a trick question. I was just curious to know who would have been your.
But yeah, that's honest. Guy. I never was a Sesko guy. I was always Isak if available, And once I realized Isak was not available after they got Champions League football. In my eyes, then we shifted focus
Would
onto Gyokeres.
would you be slightly disappointed if the likes of an Eze or a Rodrigo or someone of that ilk didn't come in now to complement what you've got with Gyokeres?
I think it would be negligent if we didn't go and sign another player who could play on the left, with the fact that Martinelli and Trossard are just not reliable enough, and Madueke is a little bit of an unknown maverick on what he can bring to the table on that left side. But yeah, let's go to the video. And the first piece of evidence that I'm going to bring to the table is, you know what? Before I get to that video, you've seen videos of people writing off Arsenal. So I know you get annoyed by Arsenal fans posting stuff about Liverpool, but you have to understand Arsenal is getting written off by everybody. There's people out here saying
I'm
that
not right. I'm expected, bro. This is your season.
there's people out here who say Chelsea and Man City are going to finish above Arsenal with chest, and it's like you ask them why. They don't have a reason. They just say it's Arsenal, or they just say, "Oh, we don't trust your attack."
Yeah, no,
Or it's
I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get
and
it.
I feel like everything that was questioned before, why Kai Havertz, you can't win the league with Kai Havertz. Well, we got Gyokeres. You can't win the league with Odegaard stinking it up. Well, we're gonna get Eze. You can't win the league with Martinelli and Trossard. We're gonna have better wing options. Saka doesn't have a backup. Well, we got Madueke. Saliba gets injured. Gabriel gets injured. We have backups for both of them now. So it's like I don't feel like the same. I don't think there's any excuses for us anymore. Like people used to say there was a reason why Arsenal can't win.
I'm glad you said that. As an
no
Arsenal fan,
excuse.
there is no excuse anymore. That's why I'm saying, from my perspective, I'm glad that Liverpool are doing what they're doing, because Liverpool are looking after themselves and they're only treating themselves as the priority, and that's what we should be doing. But from an Arsenal perspective, you had ground to make up. You still had holes in your squad that you needed to fill. You have now addressed it. Now go and address the ground that you need to make up against a team that has been superior to you in the last 12 months. And from my perspective, the pressure is on Arsenal to be able to deliver on that, because you have assembled now £1 billion worth of a squad that needs to have silverware to justify the spend and to justify the hype that you have apportioned to the players. I've just seen a guy out there on Twitter post the world-class players that Arsenal have got, and respectfully, they've not won anything in an Arsenal shirt.
Who posted this?
Some Arsenal account. I don't know, because it was like a faceless account, and he was just posting.
No, but you got to understand, some of these are
and I do. I get it. It's Twitter, but at the same time, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, these are big accounts that are just pushing out this propaganda, and people are lapping it up now. And I'll hear at the game week 3, game week 4 that Raya's on the same level as Alisson, and he's just not. Let's be honest, he's not on the same level, and that's okay. Do you know what I mean? There are very few, like when Manuel Neuer was at the top of his game, you couldn't shoehorn other goalkeepers in and say he was on the same level as Neuer.
You know something? Fine. Having world-class players is overrated. You don't need necessarily to have a whole 11 of world-class players. You just need 3. You just need 2 or 3 that can get you over the line.
With the mentality, yeah. If you had 3 Suarez's, you'd win most leagues, most seasons.
You know something? The mentality part is annoying, because I hear this from everybody all the time. The mentality.
So, if you don't have let me just check this.
If you have the mentality, but you don't have the personnel, it won't get you anywhere.
No, that's fine. Let me just check this. Kingsley saying big accounts that has no name that you don't know. How convenient. One, I'm not an Arsenal fan, so I don't pre every single Arsenal fan that comes up. And when I say he had no name, he had no face to his profile. He had an avatar of a football player. So to me,
for all we know, he could be a Spurs fan.
Exactly. It could be a kid. It could be anything. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just going to say, I don't agree with the mentality thing. I feel like it's a stick that we get beaten with all the time. But the mentality...
That's the difference, though. But that's the difference.
The thing is, there's a difference between mentality...
Do you like tennis?
And 1 second. There's a difference between mentality and already winning. Because I feel like it's once you've won, people's opinions of you change. But you might have the mentality in you to try to win every game and to take whatever it takes, but you just don't have the personnel. I think it's been a personnel problem and not a mentality issue, because you could say the first season it was a mentality issue, fair. If you want to say last season, no chance. Last season, we did not have the personnel to get over the line. The season before that, when Man City beat us on the final day of the season, If you want to say it's a mentality issue, we literally ran them until the final day of the season. At that point, you have to even admit yourself it's not a mentality issue. It's just we just couldn't beat them. They were the better team.
But
And
you had moments too, and this is the thing again. When you played them towards the back end of the season, you played out a draw, and your fans were celebrating it as
no, but
that's a good point.
that's 1 second. That's not true. The season,
I've seen the clips. It was in 4K. It was
the season where we finished 1 point behind them. It's not about playing for a draw. It's the fact that
that's what you did. You played for the draw, and your fans celebrated it though.
Bro, we were still 4 points ahead of them after that game.
But that's the point. So the mentality there is right. Right.
Stop. No. You never beat Man City in a title race where you won the league. What are you talking about? At their ground.
Okay, that's fine, but you're not. Let me.
But it's a relevant point. Mentality in one game. It's mentality over the whole season.
I get that, but what I'm saying to you in that particular moment of that season when you was already ahead and you had that gap on Manchester City, what you could have done with the right mentality and the message you could have sent to your nearest rivals was, we're going to put the final nail in your coffin. So after this, it makes it damn near impossible for you to take the league off us, and played down that opportunity to take the draw. You've consolidated instead of maximizing the opportunity in that instance, and that is the fine. Like, bro, we've lost leagues to we've lost leagues to Manchester City on a hairline of a ball not going over the line. They're the finest of margins when you are playing against elite sides. The point I was making about tennis was Andy Murray, brilliant at tennis, great. But when you come up against the Nadals and the Federers of this, their mentality as an elite sportsman was just the difference into why they was addicted to winning. That's what they get. They get a buzz and an addiction to actually winning, not just the competition, not just the enjoying the ride and the journey. It's the feeling of being winners. And to me, there is an element of that mentality, because I've seen it again. I think there's more similarities to where Arsenal and Liverpool have been in the last 10 years than any other club in England. We have this banter between us as fans that we all take the piss out of one another. But the reality is, I'm not saying you're in our shadow in a derogatory way, but you're following in the way that you're operating model very much followed on from Liverpool's operating model that started to bring us success under Klopp. The way that you stylistically played on the pitch 2022, 2020, that again, similar to what we was playing when we had Bobby, Mane, and we had Salah. There have been a lot of similarities between our clubs over the years, which is why I say I see a lot of early Liverpool iterations of getting to that point, on that tipping point, as what I've seen in Arsenal for the last couple of years.
But once again, the mentality thing, the reason why I feel like it's an unfair stick to beat us with is because just going back to head-to-heads versus Man City, we, in the 2022-2023 season, we attacked them both games, got blitz 3-1, 4-1, right? Home and away. The following season, we played them 3 times. We did not lose a single one of them. We beat them at our ground 1-0. We drew at their ground 2-2. Sorry, yeah, it was 2-2, right? It was a 2-2 draw in that game. I think so. No, that was that was last season. What am I talking about? We drew at their ground. It was 0-0. What was it? It was 0-0. Yeah, it was 0-0. That's the game you're talking about. March 31st, 0-0 at their ground. In that game, once again, it was the same problems that we always have. It wasn't that we didn't try to attack them. It wasn't that we parked the bus. It's 80th minute. We have 2 more chances the rest of the game. We don't take our chances. And we now have a situation where the former champions, we're at their ground. We're in a title race with them.
Reigning champions.
Reigning champions. We cannot afford to lose this game. But at the same time, when we've taken our chances, we're not burying them. So it gets to a point where you need to damage limitations and just get out of there with whatever.
So that's what I said. So you consolidated.
No, let me finish. I need to finish this point, because at that point, that mentality is not wrong, because the game, you've already taken your chances, you've missed them, and it's like you're in the game, you got 10 minutes left. Jesus, Trossard and Martinelli both just missed their chances, and your main guys, Saka and Havertz, who are supposed to help you get goals, have not been able to get it done either. you don't get a single more, you don't get another chance to sniff the goal. You just need to shut up shop and make sure they don't get a goal. Because if they get a goal, best believe the league is done. They've won it. If they take a 4-point
But that's
lead,
scarcity and that's
if they take,
fear. That's a fear mentality. So let me
no, but
respond
at
to it
that
now. Let me
moment in
respond to
time,
it. I've heard
at
you.
that moment in time, 4 points against the title rival should be enough to help you get the job done. We did not lose the league because we drew at Man City. We
I'm
lost the
not
league
saying
because
because you lost, or did you
no, no,
draw to
no.
Aston
We
Villa? Did
lost
you
the
draw to
league
Aston
because of
Villa?
Aston Villa. We lost the
Yeah.
league because of Fulham. We lost the league because of West Ham. Those are the games that actually lost us the league. So when people
So
talk
let me
about
respond then.
but I need to make this point clear. When people talk about mentality, it's not about the mentality against the title rivals. We are good against Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, other teams against the top 6. The problem is, can you mentally be prepared for the whole 38 games and go against Fulham away on a Christmas Eve and be as ready for the same game as
That
a
used to
title
be
rival
us.
versus Liverpool?
That used to be us. We never used to have a problem with playing yous, Manchester United, Chelsea, City. It was always going to be the
So then
Bournemouth
you
situation.
understand.
But that was because we had a mentality issue. We still had a mentality issue
No,
of
but
how.
you're
No,
coming
but let
from
me
the
just.
wrong
I've
angle.
listened to you. I've listened to you. Let me respond. So we had a mentality issue that we could turn up against teams that weren't on paper as good as us, and we would just beat them by turning up, and then we would get found out very quickly because those teams would be up for the battle, and we would
No, but it
struggle.
wasn't a
Let me
mentality
just finish.
issue. It was a
Let
forward
me.
issue.
No, but for us, I'm just talking about from my experience, that was our problem. We would look past teams that we think on paper we should be beating, and we'd get our nose wiped for us. What I'm saying to you in that particular moment is City's mentality in that game was, as long as we don't lose here today, we have every chance of still winning this league. And that is the difference. They knew, as long as we don't lose, we can still win. Had you have beat them on that particular game in that particular day, not only would you have sent a message to your direct rival to say, actually, you're not going to be able to win because we're going to extend the gap too far for you to close it, but you'd have also sent, and I always say this as well, every season there is one team usually, I'd say at least 60 to 70% of the teams in the league will roll over for and have the bellies tickle for. For years, it's been City. The season that we was mustered, it was us. Last season, again, towards the end, it was probably us. There was a season in there, really, when you blew up that people was taken by surprise. But come the end of the season, they didn't really fancy playing Arsenal. Unfortunately, it fell away for you. But there's only usually one. Sometimes if it's really close, there might be two. You guys have not managed to make that standpoint to let the other teams know in the league.
This is result-based
where
analysis.
that team. Yeah,
This is
this
results-based analysis.
This is after the fact.
Until you get the results, you're not going to change your opinion on that analysis that it's a mentality issue. It's not a mentality issue. It's a lack of clinical edge. Simple. If we had the clinical edge, you would not say, oh, you couldn't beat PSG. Bro, we were playing PSG with Mikel Moreno, Trossard, and Saka, who just came back from a hamstring injury.
And I never said that was a mentality thing. Never once said that was a mentality thing.
No, but we're going back to the reason why we lost to Newcastle, why we lost to Manchester United on penalties, why we haven't won a trophy in a couple of years. It's not a mentality thing. It's just a lack of squad depth.
Half a decade is more than a couple of years.
Bro, we won the trophy 5 years ago. I get it, half a decade. If I'm not mistaken, Manchester United were on an 8-year trophy drought. They win 2 trophies. All of a sudden, everyone's laughing, but it doesn't mean anything if your team doesn't get you any further along. We're in a better situation.
So again, that's a different argument, and that's a different conversation
right now than Manchester United.
You take that up with the Man United. I'm not going to fight Man United.
And we're in a better situation than Tottenham are right now, even though they just won the Europa League.
Again, that's a Tottenham fans' argument. I'm not even going to fight their corner. Let that man do that.
The only team that recently won a trophy,
I know from Liverpool's perspective.
The only team that recently won a trophy that's below us that I feel like actually are headed in the right direction is Chelsea, and that's
not even Newcastle.
No, Newcastle are getting decimated this season.
Okay, that's fine.
You're just about to take Isak. Mm-hmm. Chelsea took João Pedro. Man City took Trafford from them. Manchester United took Buemo. Arsenal are looking to get. If we can, we'll try to come for Anthony Gordon if we can at some point throughout the window, if that is a possibility, instead of if we make any major sales. So they're getting decimated. And don't forget, Livermento is also on the cards to go to Man City. Newcastle, as we know it, next season will not be anywhere near the same team. They're going to have to reinvent themselves. As for the reason why we came on the show is because of this. There was a post, and on the post, it was uncomfortable conversation. Liverpool are not going to be good next season, and we'll watch the video. You said, yo, set up a stream, send me the link, we'll break it down, and we'll have a conversation about it. So let's watch the video.
Not learning from others' mistakes. Everybody is gassed that Liverpool is signing all these stars, yeah? Everybody is gassed that Liverpool is signing Isaac, Ekitike, Wirtz, Gyokeres, what's his name, Frimpong. Everybody's excited and thinking Liverpool are going to go and steamroll the league, go steamroll the Champions League. But we've been here before. We've been here before, bro. PSG did the same thing. Look at what happened. Real Madrid tried the same thing. Tried to partner up Rodrigo with Mbappe, with Vinicius, with Bellingham. You see what happened? It doesn't work. Manchester United tried to do the same thing when Cristiano Ronaldo came. When you keep signing stars and people that you think are going to take you over the edge, it doesn't work. It does not work, bro. You see how long it took Chelsea to get it right? And the only way Chelsea get it right was because they signed a youngster in Cole Palmer. Everybody's gassed for Liverpool. Everybody's scared of Liverpool. I am not afraid of Liverpool. I am not afraid of Liverpool, bro.
All right, what you got to say, bro? Talk to me.
Okay, well, no, all right. So before we get into this, then, what's your position on this? Do you believe? Because from what I gathered from what he's saying is that Liverpool have now went and or gone on a way of signing and gone off this model where they've signed players based on metrics and output and what they can do in terms of deliverables, and now they have gone for these names that have got their names and stars, and they are overinflated in terms of their stature in world football. So by putting all of these stars, to try and find an analogy, there are too many cooks to spoil the broth. You got too many hands in the kitchen going on, and that isn't always a recipe for success. So is that a fair reflection on what he's kind of said there? Or
I don't echo everything he says. I just think Liverpool are imbalanced, and the team that won the league last year, they are making so much changeover that it's not out of the realm of possibility to say they're not just the clear favorites, because what's to say that everything is going to gel? 5 new players into the starting 11, and a new attackers, 2 new left back, 2 new fullbacks, a world record transfer fee on a top midfielder, and all of a sudden everything is just going to be perfect. They're going to be reinventing themselves, as you've said yourself, without trends, and now with somebody in Florian Wirtz instead of Szoboszlai in the midfield. You guys are going to play different, and everyone just basically penciling you in as favorites because you won the league last year is understandable. But the way it's being spoken about is as if we have no chance. We're not going to – Liverpool's just going to run away with it. They've signed Isaac. They've signed this guy. They've signed that guy. I think you guys are actually still need you still need more defensive cover.
Let me ask you this then first.
And I said earlier, you still need to balance out the squad before I can sit here and say, well, Liverpool are clear the best squad. I think you don't have the best squad in the league. You have one of the best centre-backs. You have one of the best right wingers. You're about to sign one of the best strikers. You have multiple players across the league that are some of the best, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's all going to work out.
No, and again, that's fine. We've already accepted that. I'm probably making an argument against 2 cases then, because what he's saying is fairly different to what you've just said there in terms of he's not scared.
I understand the actual premise. We only play you twice a season.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone's making it seem like because Liverpool are so good, everyone should be just worried. Bro, if we do our job, we can still win the league like you did last year.
100, and that's why I said join a 90 club points. Join a 90 point club, and then we can have that conversation seriously. But the point that I'm going to make here now
won the league on 84 points last year. Don't forget that.
Because we didn't need 90 points though. Had you have pushed us further, we may have taken those last 4 or 5 games. I'm not saying we didn't take them seriously because they're professionals, but in terms of their mentality towards we need to win this, it definitely was impacted by the fact that it was wrapped up against Spurs. But the point that I'm going to say to you here is, right, and this is just a question for you first, and I know football's not played on paper, but at the time of recording, and let's even throw in Isaac, because again, I think he used it in his
video. Not at the time of recording.
No, I know, but he used it in his video, so let's go with his version of where Liverpool are going to end up, right? Is this Liverpool side, including Isak, better on paper than the team that was there last season with just the addition of Chiesa?
They're different. Can you
But
say category? Can you say category?
Are
You
they a
know,
better team? Would you look at them on those two teams on paper and look at the and I'm not talking squad, I'm just talking about the 11s that they could field in any one particular match.
on paper, the team is better,
Okay.
but we don't know how
That's
that's
going to
going to
transpire
we don't know
over
how
the
it's going to
13 games.
impact
Yeah.
the overall performance. Because guess what? There's only one ball. At the end of the day, Mo Salah's great. Everyone else in the team can be great, but the goal, you're only going to score so many goals. Some of the creativity will be taken off Mo Salah. Some of the goal scoring will be taken off Mo Salah. Just because now that Mo Salah is not going to be as big as a focal point, how is the rest of the team going to work? How is the build-up play going to work without Trent being a big part of the build-up play? Your team is so different that I don't know how everything is going to work.
So
now,
neither do I. So
you,
we're stepping into the unknown. But one of the
but you
benefits of
can
being
tell
able to
me,
do that is we are now. So the level that I'm expecting these players to come in at, it will have been assessed by the Richard Hughes, the Michael Edwards of this world, and the Onslaughts. They will have assessed that the players that are going to come in are going to be good enough to kick ball with the likes of Virgil van Dijk, the likes of Mohamed Salah, the likes of a Konate, the likes of a McAllister. What they're then going to be able to ask of those players is, when you
don't forget, you still need two centre backs also for cover.
Okay, I know for cover, that's fine for argument purposes, but I'm just talking about an 11.
We have a better defense.
I'm just saying for an 11 for the time being. What you would expect of those players going forward now is that, again, as an unknown quantity, we have an air of unpredictability to the rest of the league. Last season and the season before, Liverpool at times looked a little bit stale, because if Trent wasn't being that fulcrum and was having a bad day, where was the creative spark? If Salah wasn't producing a goal and an assist, who was really going to step up to the plate? What we're now looking to be able to do, and hopefully if it works, we should be able to achieve, is the fact that there will be enough quality throughout the team that we can spread it, and the output will come from various different areas of the pitch that, even as Liverpool fans, we are yet to be able to say and be able to hang our hats on and say, in a five game run of games, we know Gyokeres is going to provide us three assists, or we know Wirtz is going to pop up with 2 assists. We can't say that yet because we've got no actual body of work to prove for it. But what I'm saying to you is that area of unpredictability will be a massive advantage to Liverpool, because the teams now don't know how Liverpool. You might have had the playbook. Arteta, Pep, all of those people, managers, Maresca, they might have had a playbook for how Liverpool have set up and played for consistently for the last 2 to 3 years. Whether we're good enough to beat them on the day to combat it is a different story, but we know more or less what Liverpool are really going to try and do in the way that they play. Now, the majority of the teams are going to be scrambling and figuring that out for the first time. But let me just try and take it back to the actual video and the point that gentleman was making. So, PSG, the comparison that I would make to PSG is Liverpool are assembling a PSG from 2024 to 2025 as opposed to a PSG from 2021 to 2023. So we're not going for an Mbappe, a Neymar, and a Messi. We're going for a Dembele, a Gyokeres. We're going for that particular model in terms of fast pace, really quick on the transition. They're going to have a Gyokeres. I don't know how you pronounce his name still, but you're going to have that type of play that's explosive, that's got the end product, and that type of PSG that is a team that works hard for each other. I could say that's worked. PSG moved away from the Galactico and the superstar model because it failed them. They now went to a model where they've got hard-working, young, upcoming players that haven't hit their ceiling yet, that have actually went and delivered it on the pitch. That is what I am seeing in terms of what Liverpool are trying to replicate. Liverpool aren't going down the route of what Manchester United did. Watch this, right? So Manchester United bought, in 2014-15, he bought Angel Di Maria, 60 mil. At the price at the time, probably a good price, probably a decent price for a player that, where he'd won everything at that level. He had been at the top. That to him now was a sideways move because of where Manchester United was. But he was going because he was the star. He wanted to be treated like said star. He did not want to have to carry the heavy lifting when there was a young Martial in the squad, when there was a young Marcus Rashford. Yous are going to be my legs and I'm going to be the quality. It didn't necessarily work for him because he couldn't adjust to Manchester. He couldn't settle, and he then moved on. on, but then went back to a level because he was in a much better environment. So the player wasn't necessarily the problem. It was the fit of the club. You've also got players like Falcao, went on a loan, but another one. He just wanted to be that name star. Those were players bought as an example. The season after, you've got players like who else came in? You had obviously players like Depay that came in. You had Schweinsteiger that came in from Bayern Munich. Players of that level. Again, a couple of years later, Romelu Lukaku, Alexis Sanchez on a swap deal with yourselves. Players on those at that particular point in their career at that level, they weren't expecting to come and put in the hard yards and build with a particular team. They was all expecting to get the payday, and a lot of them were commercial deals. Liverpool don't operate for a commercial deal. We're not looking to get a player to just put the name on the shirt because it's going to give us that commercial viability in the next 2 to 3 years, and the player's going to pay for themselves. We're not after our own version of Ronaldo. We look based on the metrics and the output that these players can deliver. Alexander Isak, one of the best upcoming strikers in the Premier League.
He's not upcoming. He's already there.
Well established. All right, Premier League.
He's one of the best already.
All right, fair enough. One of the best, but we've established he's proven, he's done it. One of the best. Mamardashvili, upcoming goalkeeper that can be the heir to Alisson's throne. We had an excellent goalkeeper in Kelleher, but Liverpool have made a business case to say Kelleher might be good, but even as good as Kelleher can be and as settled as he can be, he still won't ever reach a level close to where Alisson is. But this next guy could. So we'll make the gamble and we'll take the risk on him. Florian Wirtz, Bundesliga player of the season for 2 years on the bounce. You've got players like Jamal Musiala in there. You've got Harry Kane in there. You've got players like Leroy Sané. You've got... who's the other one? Kimmich. You've got all of these players that have been exciting in the Bundesliga that still, in terms of the output, he has delivered. So yeah, does a player like that deserve a big move? Well, when Manchester City, Bayern Munich and Real Madrid come sniffing for him, it would be remiss of a club the size of Liverpool to not put their name in the hat. We've got him. So why would I now feel like he cannot go on and kick on? Because he hasn't hit that ceiling yet. Players like Ekitike, I'm not going to make out that I know a lot or a great deal of Ekitike's game or how he's performed over the last couple of seasons. Raw. He's a very raw player, but the club have identified that the price tag might look like, wow, you paid more money for him than a Manchester United paid for a Di Maria, and Di Maria had already won everything. The game's moved on since then, but he's the type of player that we've identified that may come good in 3 or 4 years, and we can take that risk on for him right now because we're going to have our primary striker in there. I don't see where that video has any real comparison to any of the players that Liverpool have. Again, nobody.
Comparison.
Go on.
The only comparison is that he's saying we've seen signing multiple stars, which would be, in your case, you'd be signing 2 stars in one window, coming into a new team. It takes time. It's not necessarily something that clicks right away.
Are they stars or by name alone and associated clubs that they've played for? Are they stars because of what they've done on the pitch?
Florian Wirtz and Isak are stars.
But under what? Listen to what I'm saying.
Let me give you the point. If they were to sign for Real Madrid tomorrow, they would be considered Galacticos.
Okay, and that's. But so then, based on what I'm saying now, are they stars because of their name alone and the clubs that have respectively been in for them? Or are they stars based on what they've delivered on the pitch over the last 2 years?
Both.
There is a difference.
Isak and Florian Wirtz have both delivered trophies for their respective teams. Both are considered very good players in their position, probably some of the best in the world. And Liverpool are signing 2 really good attacking players coming into that team, making a huge difference. Nobody's denying the quality of those players. But when they say these things have happened before and how does it change? How does Mo Salah play with Florian Wirtz and Isak? Is it a situation where he's going to be more of an assister? Is it going to be a situation where Alexander Isak and Florian Wirtz will bounce off each other and Salah will be more of a passenger throughout the games? How will all these guys work with each other? And I'm not necessarily of the ilk that they won't work together. So I don't mimic the whole conversation.
But Salah's an elder statesman in that Liverpool squad that's got
Yeah,
legacy,
so
that's got the buy-in from his teammates already.
yeah, so you're helping
These players are
transition away from him.
so that we're succession planning, but these players are going to be the ones that take the mantle off Salah, but they've got to learn from him and adapt in their roles to that. Florian Wirtz is like 22, lad. So to turn around and say a 22-year-old is going to come to Liverpool to be on a payday because he knows he's a star and he doesn't have to work. No, but in his video, he's making the comparison to
what he's saying is it's not going to all click right away. That's where you're missing his point. I think you're having two different conversations. He was only comparing PSG and Manchester United and stuff in the grand scheme of bringing in quality players to this level doesn't necessarily mean you're automatically going to go and kick on to what you want, because there is sometimes an embedding period. There is sometimes a step back
volume.
So you're saying forward.
In one breath, you're saying Liverpool have got the volume of these players, 3 or 4 or 5 of these players that change the makeup of how Liverpool play. That's fine. That is a different argument than saying when Real Madrid signed a Galactico and Mbappe to be the crown jewel in their attack, or a Bellingham and a Vinicius, they don't work because they don't work together. That's different because the profiling on those players.
Let's be honest, Mbappe came in, one player came into a Champions League winning side, and it's ruined the whole way that they play.
Balance. But that's because, again, Mbappe in that system has been given.
But let me compare it.
Let me land it. Mbappe in that system has been given the freedom to no longer have to put in the work rate of the 11th. The work
Edwards
rate of,
would want to go. Okay.
Mbappe has been given the freedom to not have to operate like the 11th man in a football team. And that is the fundamental difference. I don't believe at any point this season we have went out of our way to sign a player that is now going to be considered a luxury. I'll give you an example.
Nobody's saying it's a luxury. Let me get my point, because I don't think you're understanding my point. My point is not that he's a luxury. It's that the whole attack was built around Mo Salah. Now the creativity is going to be built around we assume it'd be built around Florian Wirtz. You wouldn't spend all that money without having him being a big part of your creativity. And then Isak coming in as your main striker on top of Ekitike, you're now going to have to spread around the goals. It's going to be going Mo Salah's not going to be the main focal point on the attack anymore. And on top of that, not only have you transitioned away from how you're going to create and how you're going to build up play with Trent, you now also have unfortunately Jota's passed away. Diaz is going to be gone. Nunes is going to be going. Chiesa is going to potentially be leaving. You're going to be bringing in this Rio guy. Ben is going to be part of the team. You're going to have this youngster Fofana who you're potentially going to be signing. If you get Rodrigo, we will see. But if you do get Rodrigo, that could be another level raising player, Galactico type player coming into this team that could also mess up the chemistry of the attack. There is a case to say Liverpool are doing so much that it can cause disruption on how fluid a team can function. The reason why the team was so fluid last season, you did not sign many players. You went again with a team that was relatively new each other.
It was settled.
You started the season off much better than everybody else because you already knew what you had in your squad.
Absolutely. But what
so can't you see that part of it? That's the main crux of the argument.
But to me, that's not his argument.
But you're fighting with the semantics that something in the video is wrong. The main argument is
the point he's making.
Not scared of Liverpool because of all the stuff that they're doing doesn't necessarily always lead to success. The main argument, the main thesis. You're upset about body paragraphs. The main thesis and conclusion of the whole essay is that Liverpool, what they're doing this window is great, but it doesn't always lead to guaranteed success right away. And it sometimes can actually mean your team might not be functioning the way you want it to get you what you want next season.
But what I'm saying to you is, so if again, that's your interpretation of what he said. The way that it came,
his exact words: Liverpool are not going to be good next season, and he's basically saying, based on all the business you're doing, you might not necessarily be as good as you were last season.
But okay, so that again, that's what you're taking away from that video. What I'm trying to say to you is, though, there's a level of players that have come in, and the way that they've came into this club. There is an expectation, especially, okay, but here's the case that I'm going to make to you. Darwin Núñez was always going to go this summer. Luis Diaz was always going to go this summer. The likes of a Chiesa potentially always going to go this summer. The one that, again, is out of our control, unfortunately, Diogo Jota would have likely stayed. The likes of a Harvey Elliott could have went. So for a team that was really settled going out of the back end of last season into this season, there was going to be change whether we liked it or not. Liverpool could have done one of two things. Liverpool could say, right, we've got 2 years left of Mohamed Salah at the top level of his game. Now, when we've got those last 2 years, do we try to extract the last drops out of Salah to try and get us plus, again, let's not say he's going to get 29 goals, but 20 goals for the next 2 seasons in the Premier League and keep him as the focal point? And do we get 2 subpar players in this through the middle and on the left that then continue to aid Mohamed Salah and what he does in terms of his output? Or do Liverpool look in the market and try to actively pursue the best possible targets? Now, when I'm saying to you the best possible targets, I'm not turning around to you and saying, and here's another example. We could have went out of our way and said, right, Kevin De Bruyne is going to go on a free. Kevin De Bruyne lives round the corner from Virgil van Dijk. He's an all-time Premier League player. He's won multiple leagues. He's still got some level of quality to him. That, to me, if we would have just went out of our way and bought a Kevin De Bruyne, I would have given more credence to that. Let me finish. I would have given more credence to that lad's argument, because to me, that would have been the type of player that he's alluding to, that they're the type of profiles that go to clubs for ulterior motives other than pure footballing reasons. Whereas Liverpool have identified the best possible targets that can give us football output. Now, you are 100% right when you say we are adding a lot of movement. We had no choice. Our hand was forced knowing the outgoings that were going to go. We was going to lose our main striker. We was going to lose our main left winger. We was going to lose a left back. We was going to lose a right back. We had to make that business. So from my perspective, the strongest business case you can make is go and buy players in that position that keep your system almost as like for like as possible, give you the fluidity up top so you can drop in and move players as and when needed, and give you a little bit more rotation options. But let's shop in the highest possible bracket to get the best quality and bang for our buck, because there are no guarantees in this game. But if I'm going to put my money towards anybody, I'd rather put my money towards Alexander Isak, that knows the league inside out and is probably the best striker in the league. I'm going to put my money towards having one of the best talents that come out of Germany in the last couple of years, and it's been the German Bundesliga. These players are hungry to win more. I don't think Di Maria motivation was to, I'm going to win Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues with Manchester United.
Talk about teams with title contentions.
So PSG going for a Champions League, I don't think they ever looked close to getting a Champions League when they had Neymar, Messi and Mbappe, because 2 out of that 3 didn't want to work hard. And Mbappe's looking at Neymar and Messi and going, well, if you're not doing it and you're not doing it, why should I be doing it? And then all of a sudden, you've got 3 players that don't want to track back and work for the rest of the team. They are what we consider luxury players. Like I said to you before, the example I was going to give you was we went out of our way to get Thiago Alcantara. He was a difference maker, but he was a luxury player. And it meant that we would actually forego his frailties and some of his weaknesses in his game, because we knew what he brings on the pitch when he can get him on the pitch is going to be a level raiser for us. But there was a trade-off in that particular bit of business. What I'm saying right now is we're in the process of assembling a squad where I believe his desire is to win a Premier League. He wants to win a Champions League. No guarantees at any club, but that's what he wants to do. He believes his best chance of doing that is in a Liverpool squad, aided with Mohamed Salah still at his best, and also having the likes of a Van Dijk behind him and an Alisson in goal. These parts that we've added, not by choice, but by necessity, are the best possible options for this Liverpool squad. Does that mean it's going to work? No. But do I have more faith that I can back the players that we've currently got than getting bit part players, going out and getting a Lookman, going out there and getting a Gordon, going out there and getting a Watkins, just because we've now filled the numbers and the volume's the same level? No, because I want players that want to kick us on and take us up a level. And I believe we've done that with getting players that deservedly have deserved the move to the club the size of Liverpool. I don't believe that in that video he is making a fair comparison of the Liverpool project in comparison to a PSG of Messi's project, a Real Madrid of this current iteration, or a Manchester United of years gone past,
You know
even
something?
if you bring in Ronaldo.
His wording might be poor, but his main argument is he's not afraid of Liverpool, even
And
with
that's his prerogative. He doesn't have to be afraid of us.
coming in, because he doesn't believe right away it will mean that they're going to be the best, or it's going to all click and they're automatically going to work together. Because at the end of the day, something's going to give. Just because you now have a better player doesn't mean you're now going to score 60 more goals. No, that means Mo Salah might get a couple goals chipped off his record, but Liverpool as a team might score 6 or 4 more goals next season compared to what they were. They might
I think we would take that, though.
They might create more chances. I'm just saying, this is how it goes. There with every addition, there is some subtraction. It's just
of course
simple math.
But I would take a Salah saying, right, I'm not trying to go and get 30 goals this season. I'd happily
100%. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying there is going to be give and take. There is going to be similar to at Arsenal. Martinelli, Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard might not be on penalties anymore. That's going to lower their goal numbers, but they might get more assists with Gyokeres in the building. It's just there's going to be changes, but the changes that Arsenal are doing and the changes that Arsenal are doing in comparison to a Man City and a Liverpool are much more granular. Liverpool and Man City have much more turnover in their starting 11, and it can negatively impact them to start the season and can leave them behind the coach and put them in a situation where they're chasing throughout the season. And we've seen that in the past. If it does happen, then I would say majority of the stuff that he said in the video is right. And if Liverpool go and blitz the league and Mo Salah, Wirtz, and Trent, Mo Salah, Wirtz, and Isak all have a great season, then his argument is correct. At the end of the day, we will only see once the season starts and we see how you guys are playing. Because I think too much changeover to a title holder is not necessarily a good thing. And to everybody who's saying Arne Slot did this in what do you call it, the Eredivisie, well, the team he took over didn't win the league for like how many years at Feyenoord when he took over. The team that he's taking over now, he won the league first season, and he's expected to be in and around the pack again next season. But to change almost every single to change almost majority of the big difference makers you had in your team last season, Trent, to change Szoboszlai to put him on the bench and bring in somebody else, that's going to be a change. To have a completely new left winger, Diaz, who is one of your most important players, getting sold. Another thing, you're going to have two strikers, making it a little bit more imbalanced. You'd probably be better off if you had somebody who could actually play the left wing traditionally. But hey, Isak can maybe play left wing. Ekitike could probably play left wing. We'll see. But I do think there is a lot of experimenting that's going to happen early in the season, and that can cause some dip in performances early in the season. And later on in the season, when you're in full throttle, we'll see if you're still in the race by then. Because Liverpool, the reason why you guys won the league the last 2 times you won it, you ran away with it. You never really won a title race, and you haven't won back-to-back either. It is a lot to ask for a team to win back-to-back. But hey, that's a completely different conversation. What can we do? Hey, we lost him. I don't know where he went. We'll see. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Love for the love, people. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I don't know why he is gone, where he went, what happened. I'll see if he messaged me on Twitter or something. But yeah, anyways, some people understand we're having a football conversation. Some people don't want to have a conversation about this. But yeah, there you go. People are saying hope. Nah, some of these things are facts. You guys just don't want to acknowledge it. Some of you guys don't want to have the uncomfortable conversations. But hey, that's why we're here. You guys have yourselves a wonderful day. Catch you guys in the next video. Love for the love. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Great little debate between me and Errol. And we'll catch you on the next one. And to all the people who are upset, I can't help you if you're upset about football opinion. Peace out.